Greetings and welcome back to room 303 in our chats with Emily, as we are calling our readings through the poetry of Emily Dickinson. We turn now to poem 122 in the Johnson edition, A Something in a Summer's Day. And of course, this idea of a summer's day will immediately take us back to some sonnets of Shakespeare and the like. And I think Emily is definitely playing that game. You'll remember in poems 130 and 132, form very, very similar. Here we're celebrating a summer's day. Our assumptions are that you've been following our stuff at LearnStrong.net, down that left-hand side, Chats with Emily, our playlist. I'm hopeful that you've already done our introductory lecture as well as the preceding 121 poems we just finished with, As Watchers Hang Up on the Eaves. Now, this is a poem about longing, about hope, and it is also a poem, and this will remind us a lot, of course, of Emerson and Thoreau, about the cyclical power of nature, the cyclical nature of nature, we might say. Let's enjoy. By the way, I want you to hear all the S sounds as we read this poem. A something in a summer's day, as slow her flambeau borne away, which solemnizes me. A something in a summer's noon, a depth, an azure, a perfume, transcending ecstasy. And still, within a summer's night, a something so transporting bright, I clap my hands to see, then veil my too inspecting face, lest such a subtle shimmering grace flutter too far for me. The wizard fingers never rest. The purple brook within the breast still chafes its narrow bed, still rears the east her amber flag, guides still the sun along the crag, his cavern of red. So, looking on, the night, the morn, conclude the wonder gay, and I meet, coming through the dews, another summer's day. The idea, of course, here is that as beautiful is the summer's day, and the fact that it saddens us to know that it's going away, there's always the hope of the next. We cannot help but think, of course, of Shelley's Ode to the West Wind, final lines, if winter come, can spring be far behind. Notice again all the S sounds. A something in a summer's day, as slow her flambeau burn away, which solemnizes me. Poem 291 will play with this flambeau as well. By the way, I think the key word of this poem is solemnizes me. In other words, it kind of gives me pause, we might say. In other words, a beautiful day gives me pause because I long for it to stay, but I also recognize that it won't. A something in a summer's noon, notice we go from day to noon. A depth, an azure, a perfume, notice your threes there. Transcending ecstasy. You'll remember in poem 71 the use of this word ecstasy. And now we're going to get four stills. Still within a summer's night, notice from day to noon to night. A something so transporting bright, I clap my hands to see. Go back to poem 25 with this notion of sight and joy of sight. Then, so notice we go from day to noon to night, and then the word then. Then veil my too inspecting face, lest such a subtle shimmering grace. Here are these S sounds, these sibilants, these hard sibilances, flutter too far for me. In other words, I find myself so captivated by this summer's day that I worry that I'm going to lose this opportunity, this enjoyment. And then she speaks of God as wizard. Now, this is fascinating to me. We're going to hear this again in poem 177, when we pick that poem up, Ah, necromancy sweet, ah, wizard erudite, teach me the skill that I instill the pain, surgeons assuage in vain, nor herb of all the plain can heal. The idea of speaking of God as wizard will come back again in poem 291 as well. The wizard, I love the way she says this. The wizard fingers never rest. By the way, notice it's not the possessive of wizard. It's not the wizard's fingers never rest. It's the wizard fingers never rest, which is ironic if she's talking about deity, because you'll remember in Genesis 2:3 that God rested on the seventh day. So there's always an interesting dichotomy for Emily here. The wizard fingers never rest. The purple brook within the breast still chafes its narrow bed. Still, see all these still words, still rears the east her amber flag. In other words, at the end of the day, there will be another sunrise. Guides still the sun along the crag, his caravan of red. So looking on, the night, the morn, notice the use of the dashes, conclude the wonder gay. In other words, it's almost as if she's speaking about sunrise, sunsets as being the work of artists. And I meet, coming through the dews, another summer's day. In other words, her argument is what? Well, there's always reason to hope. There's always reason to look for the next day. At 2b, I love the S sounds. This is one of my favorite poems of hers to read aloud for all those S sounds. At 3a, well, she will say in poem 624, forever is composed of nows. One of the great lines in all of Emily's collection. That is to say, there's always reason to hope. There's always something happening right here, right now. And the hope is that there will be more of those coming. Finally, in 3b, how do you think about the idea of getting through the experiences of day to day to day, and how does hope work for you? And do you find yourself always looking to the next? As Shelley again said it in Ode to the West Wind, if winter come, can spring be far behind? Certainly Emily is always reminding us there's reason to hope. Keep hoping, guys. Thank you.